Hello everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews. This is Freya.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Jason, and we're bringing you today's episode. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We talk about a lot of books. Today we want to do... Did I just...
You did.
Mickey, Minnie Mouse?
You did.
Today the other one finally dropped. Today we want to do another one of our lists. And we're not doing the greatest, the best, because you can't quantify that. You can't say this author is the best over all these other authors. And we don't really care either, not here. All we care about is this fun to read? Is it fun to read? Is it enjoyable to read? Is the author somebody that you want to follow the rest of their books? And in this case, for all 5 of these authors, the answer is a resounding yes. Some of these are some of my favorite authors. So in no particular order. No particular order. Here we go. So I'm going to start off with David Eddings. Most fantasy authors have heard of David Eddings. Try not to Google the history of him and his wife, because back in the 70s they ended up in jail. But David Eddings, he wrote his Belgariad, he wrote his Malloreon. I don't know what she has read of them. The Belgariad is the best of it. He has other series that he's written that are all fantastic. What I noticed with David Eddings after a while, and he started giving Lee Eddings, his wife, co-author credits, so it started being David and Lee Eddings. What I started noticing after a while is the series, the characters were pretty much all the same. They were pretty much identical to the ones from the previous series, just with a different name, but they had the same character traits, same manner of speaking. So he's very much got a fairly narrow window that he can write in. But the Belgariad, it's starter fantasy. It's awesome. It's a 5-book series. Malloreon is a 5-book series. It's a sequel. So David Eddings is definitely an author that you need to check out for sure.
Okay.
Number 4 is one of my favorite authors. He has unfortunately passed away, so he has nothing else coming out. But
Ghost Riders?
But Ghost Riders? No, that's Marvel.
Ghost Writers.
So his name is David Gemmell. And a lot of his books, the majority of his books, are one-offs. He does have some series, 2-book series, 3-book series. A good portion of them all seem to kind of, if they're not in the same world or same universe, they're in very similar universes. And it's what I would call almost low fantasy. It's definitely not high fantasy. But it's medieval adjacent, so it's not urban fantasy or modern fantasy. His writing style is just an absolute riot. He's hilarious. His characters are hilarious. Definitely quirky. Definitely different personalities. You got your, it's like one book I can think of. You got your master swordsman. That you got your big hulking oaf. That's just kind of a hard drinking, cheating con man.
I've done a few of those.
But yet is they're best friends. And anyway, it's all of his books. It's super, super, super entertaining. I cannot recommend David Gemmell enough. I've got a bookshelf full of David Gemmell's books back there, so cannot recommend him enough. We will actually talk about some of his individual books in other videos. But yeah, you got to check him out. After you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Next is one that a lot of people have been reading. He's one of the more recent authors, and of the videos that we have posted so far, it's one of the ones that have gotten the most views. Steven Erikson. Steven Erikson writes the Malazan series. It's a 10-book series and again, he's a relatively new author, and the Malazan series is absolutely incredible. If you have not read it, you have to read it if you're a fantasy fan. I cannot stress enough. Malazan Chronicles, or Malazan Empire, and the puppy just went crazy. And
You okay, baby?
that didn't sound good.
I didn't.
You have to read the Malazan Chronicles, or Malazan Empire, or whatever it's called.
Malazan.
Steven Erikson. Just Google Steven Erikson Malazan, or do an Amazon search. Steven Erikson Malazan. One of the best fantasy series of the last 15-20 years. It's absolutely incredible. Next up is another author that is pretty darn famous within the fantasy realm. R.A. Salvatore. R.A. Salvatore is one of the greatest fantasy authors of the last 30 or 40 years. And probably, I might even go so far as to say he is the most influential fantasy author of the last 20 or 30, 40 years. Just because of his Icewind Dale trilogy, and then the further trilogies after that, and the iconic characters that he created, and how he fleshed out the world. But mostly it's the iconic characters. His characters are absolutely legendary. Most fantasy fans know who Drista Orden is. There's people that don't even read that know who Drista Orden is, and Bruno, and Wolfgar, and Catti-brie, and Regis, and Artemis and Cherry. Okay, Artemis is a supporting character, but he's my favorite character. So incredibly influential, and he never stopped writing. He still writes, and while he has continued, like he kind of ended the his Forgotten Realms stuff, and then he managed to fairly, I won't say cleverly because it's an old trope, but managed to kind of reboot it so he could bring the characters back. But he's written other things, and the Cleric Quintet, which is also within the fantasy realms, but he's also written some series that were outside of the Forgotten Realms. And he's just incredible. His writing has improved and grown and evolved over the years. The final one is someone that I would also consider one of the greatest fantasy authors of the last 30 years, and that's Raymond E Feist. He's got probably more books than R.A. Salvatore written in his own world as well. Raymond E Feist wrote the Rift War saga, which started out with Magician Apprentice and Magician Master. That was actually one book that was 800 pages, so the publisher split it into 2 books.
I've still read 800 books. 800 books.
You have read 800 books.
Far more than 800 books.
And it was just incredible. And from that, it springboarded and launched this just amazing universe actually, not even a world, a universe, multiverse that he built out. And the characters are, it's almost sad to me how they are not as iconic as R.A. Salvatore's characters, because Jimmy the Hand was incredible, Pug was absolutely incredible, Arutha, incredible, Eric von Darkmoor, incredible, Nakor, the Blue Rider, I almost call him the Mad Magician, absolutely hilarious and incredible. His characters are just absolutely amazing, and his world building is incredible. Even when he writes on other worlds, they're still part of the Rift War. Like when he goes to Saranawani and he writes Servant of the Empire, Mistress of the Empire. Yep. It just incredible books. So if you have not read Raymond E Feist, if you're a fan of fantasy, you've probably been tempted. You've probably seen him and all that. Maybe you look at it and you go, "Oh, it's such a large series." What's the first book? Oh, the first book was written 30 years ago. I'm not reading anything that old. You have to read Magician Apprentice. But here's the thing with Raymond E Feist as well. You can enter almost anywhere in his series, because each one of them is basically their own finite trilogies, start, finish, and end. Yes, there's some characters that show up in there from previous series, but each one of his trilogies very much self-contained. So you can enter it anywhere. Just start with the first book of the trilogy, but otherwise you can enter it anywhere. Mm-hmm. And you have to. Raymond E Feist is absolutely unbelievable. It's just incredible. I somehow have some gaps in my collection, even though I've read all the books, and I intend to fill those gaps and have every single one of the books, because I reread them all the time. In fact, one of my all-time favorite books is part of the Rift War saga. So that is 5 absolutely amazing fantasy authors that you must read. So please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Then go to the bookstore, go to Amazon, go somewhere, grab a Kindle, grab your bookshelves, and clean them off and go buy books to put on them.
You never have too many books.
You gotta read these authors. Thank you everybody for watching. I am Jason.
I'm Amy.
That's Freya. We'll catch you next time.
Bye now.
Bye.